Well, former President Barack Obama returned to the White House yesterday for the first time in 5 years, even though he just lives 2 miles away.
The former commander-in-chief making the visit to commemorate the 12th anniversary of the Affordable Care Act. He got all the attention.
Man, the president looks so old there. Jackie Heinrich is live, and some say President Obama stole the show. Jackie, would you quibble with that?
Probably not fight with that one, Brian. Good morning, Steve Ainsley and Brian. Yeah, the Washington Post described Obama's visit as a stump speech, a pep talk, and a roast all mixed into one. And you know what? That's pretty accurate. Obama was the headliner, and there were some unflattering clips that showed it, with Obama gathering all the attention, Biden wandering around seemingly with no one to talk to. And Obama played into that dynamic, or at least tried to pass it off like he was playing.
Vice President Biden, Vice President. That was a joke. That was all set up.
Well, not everyone in Biden world reportedly thought that was funny. Despite living within miles of each other, Obama and Biden have rarely seen each other since Biden took office, according to reports. Biden campaigned on being Obama's VP, but the memory of Obama pushing for Hillary Clinton to succeed him is really not all that far in the rearview mirror. And although Biden claims he told Obama not to endorse him in the 2020 primaries, there has been some reporting to contest that. Although they are described as real friends, including by former Obama aides and current White House staff, there's certainly a distance between the two.
I had been in the Oval Office 100 times as vice president, or more than that, every morning for the initial meetings, but I had never been up in the residence.
You'd never been in the residence of the White House?
I only been upstairs in the yellow room, you know, the Oval upstairs.
That clip from 2021 showing that Obama and Biden were maybe not as close as we thought during the Obama years in the White House. The point of Obama's appearance was to celebrate the anniversary of the Affordable Care Act and promote Biden's efforts to expand it. But strategists also want Obama's energy to pull the Biden White House out of the proverbial dumps. It has been bogged down by the pandemic, inflation, and now the war in Ukraine. Polling has showed it. And there's little time left before the midterms, and all of this has dampened Democrats' hopes of keeping both chambers. Steve Ainsley and Brian.
Jackie, I'm puzzled, though, after you painted very accurately a couple of presidents who were not very good friends. Before Barack Obama came to the White House the other day, I heard one of the press people from the White House say, you know, they're actual friends. They're not Washington friends. They're really good friends. It doesn't look like they're really good friends. It sounds like they're trying to push, hey, they're really good friends. You should like Joe Biden more to help him out of the polls.
You know, who knows what the strategy is here? Maybe they are really good friends, but some people in the White House think that it wouldn't be maybe helpful to have the image of Obama sort of lingering in the background, that the American people wouldn't like that. We don't really know.
Yeah.
We do know that they certainly do not tout their relationship, or Biden does not tout his relationship with Obama anymore, really, now that he's been president. He certainly campaigned on it, but he's kept his distance, trying to do things sort of his own way as president. And we just have to take their word for it, or from the White House, that there is a relationship there, according to them.
All right, Jackie, thanks so much.
Thank you. Those images.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Think about this, though. The former vice presidents, Al Gore and Bill Clinton, don't talk to each other. Dick Cheney and George Bush 43 barely were on speaking terms because of Scooter Libby and that situation, not getting a pardon. You know, when Bush 41 took over for Ronald Reagan, they didn't seem to be that strong of a relationship. I thought there was a lot of respect between them. And now the Vice President Pence and Donald Trump don't talk. Well, I guess it's tough keeping this relationship for that long, because it's time to move on for both parties.
But remember, you know, picking a vice president is sometimes transactional. Barack Obama picked Joe Biden as his vice president because Barack Obama, the state legislator from Illinois, had no foreign policy credentials. And so they picked the guy who had a lot of them, Joe Biden. And so that's how they wound up arm in arm at the White House yesterday, because Joe Biden was going to help Barack Obama with a blank spot in his biography.
The images, I mean, I know they brought him there to help with the approval ratings and to show that they're friends, but look at these images. He's like, the crowd's loving Barack Obama, And is that Joe Biden that has his hand on Barack Obama's shoulder and he's not even turning around?
And look at Kamala Harris. I'm sorry, who's the president? I forgot.
Right. And
I'd rather stick with
then
this
there's
guy.
that image of Barack Obama to the left of the screen and Joe Biden standing there by himself, and he, like, I don't have anyone to talk to, and he signals to that girl, come up here and be my friend.
Well, when Barack Obama was leaving the East Room, Peter Doocy on his iPhone captured Barack Obama. One of the other reporters asking Barack Obama, you know, what's your message for the Democrats regarding the midterms? And he said, the Democrats have a good message. They just need to tell it. Well, Chris Christie talked to Brian about 40 minutes ago, and he said that Chris Christie hopes the Democrats tell their story. Because, you know what? Despite what Barack Obama says, the Democrat story is not a good one.